Hi guys! Today we only have one video. We're going to be learning about how to set up word problems. I think the hardest part about word problems is figuring out the equation that you should use to solve that question. Once you have the correct equation written down, then it's just a matter of solving for x, which we've been doing for the past 2 days. So on these problems, I'm just going to help you get your equation started. If you'd like to solve the problem on your own, you're more than welcome to, and we can check our answers in class tomorrow. The other thing that's a little bit difficult about word problems is every word problem is kind of unique. And so I'm going to go over 2 word problems that I think you guys are going to maybe struggle a little bit more with, and I'm going to help you with those equations. Now, on your homework tonight, there might be other word problems, but I'm hoping that you can figure out those equations on your own. And then if you can't, don't forget you can submit the Google form and ask for help writing the equations. But let's get started. For our first word problem, and you should be taking notes, so you should be writing this down, maybe pause and write it down. It says that 2 buses are leaving Houston at the same time, and they travel in opposite directions. One of the buses averages 55 miles per hour, and the other one averages 45 miles per hour. When will the buses be 400 miles apart? One of the things that I like to do on these problems is I like to visualize what's happening. I like to draw pictures to help me really understand what we're doing. So here is Houston. 2 buses are leaving Houston at the same time, and they go in opposite directions. So one is going to drive to the left, and the other is going to drive to the right. We want to know, the question is, when will the buses be 400 miles apart? So if we're pretending that this arrow is a bus and this arrow is a bus, the question is, when is the distance between this bus and this bus going to equal 400 miles? So we want the distance to be 400 miles. Now, we don't really know how far either of them traveled. We don't really know how long either of them traveled. In fact, that's what we're trying to solve for. We're trying to figure out how long did it take. And so we need to define our variable. And we just said that we are trying to figure out how long it will take for them to travel. And so my variable, my x, is time. I like to use x for everything just because I'm used to working with the letter x. And also, we probably don't want to use the letter t because sometimes that looks like a plus sign and it's confusing. So since I'm trying to figure out how long it will take for them to reach 400 miles apart, my x is time. And then something that you need to know to be able to complete this problem is you need to know that distance is rate times time. How fast you're going times how long you traveled will give you how far you traveled. How fast times how long will give you how far. Okay? So I want the entire distance to be 400, but I need to figure out, like, what's the distance that the first bus went? And so I'm going to use this formula. The first bus was traveling at 55 miles per hour. That's their rate. And the time, I don't know, so I'm going to use x. So the time is 55x. There it is. So the first bus traveled 55 times x. That's the distance. That's how far they traveled. 55 miles per hour for I don't know how long. That'll give me the distance. And then we're going to do the same thing for the second bus. The second bus was traveling at 45 miles per hour for X amount of time. So if I do 45 times X, that will tell me how far that bus traveled. Now, if I take the distance of the first bus and I add it with the distance of the second bus, my hope is that that total distance will be 400. So that's my equation. The distance of the first bus plus the distance of the second bus should equal that 400 miles. Here is the equation that we'll use. This is how you do these types of problems where 2 things are traveling in opposite directions. So when you're doing your homework tonight, if you come across a problem like this, this is the setup. Now, again, we're not going to solve these in the video. You can solve them on your own if you want. We can check our answers tomorrow, but I have faith that you can do that. There's one more word problem that I think that you might struggle with a little bit tonight, and so I want to help you set that one up, and then we'll be done with our word problem examples. Remember to pause the video and write the problem down. This problem says that the length of a rectangle is 3 centimeters greater than its width. The perimeter is 24 centimeters. What are the dimensions of the rectangle? Just like on the previous problem, I'm going to draw a picture so I can visually see what they're talking about. So here I have a rectangle. On a rectangle, we have two dimensions. We have length and we have width. They have to be across from each other, so the lengths are across from each other and the widths are across from each other. If I go back and read the question again, I can discover, because right now we have two letters, L and W. We don't really want two letters, we want one letter. So I can discover from the first sentence that the length is 3 centimeters greater than the width. In math class, when you see the word is, and I know it's a teeny tiny word, and so we often overlook it, but in math class, when you see the word is, that's where you're going to put an equal sign. So this is saying that the length is 3 centimeters greater than the width. The length is equal to the width plus 3. Earlier, we learned that you can use substitution. So I can substitute an L with a W plus 3. So I can take out my L's, and in their place, I can put W plus 3's. This is going to be important because I want to have only one letter, so I'm only solving for one letter. Okay, so these are my new dimensions of my rectangle. Now, the other thing you have to pay attention to is that in this problem, we are given the perimeter. We have a tendency to always just go straight to the area formula, but this is not an area problem. This is a perimeter problem. The perimeter is the distance around the entire shape. So to find the perimeter, one way that I can do that is I can just add up all four sides, and that should equal my perimeter. So here I added my width plus my width plus 3 plus my other width plus my other width plus 30. And that should give me my perimeter, which is 24. This is one equation that you can use for this problem. Now, maybe you actually remember your perimeter formula. That's from geometry class last year. So if you remember your perimeter formula, the perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Now, in this scenario, again, my length is actually the W plus 3. So I don't want to use this formula exactly because it has too many letters in it. So I'm going to put a 24 where the P is, and I'm going to put a W plus 3 where the L is. And this would be an alternate formula that you could use. Both of these will get you the same answer. Again, I'm not going to solve in this video. I have faith that you can solve on your own, and we can check tomorrow if you want to. I'm just trying to help you set up. Don't forget, when you're doing your homework tonight, if you're having trouble with the setup, to submit that Google form so that I know which problems we need to go over in class tomorrow. This concludes today's only video.